right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of College Sports The Geeks. Exciting weekend. What are your thoughts just overall?
My thoughts. What a fantastic weekend, Derek. You know why? Pretty much everything I predicted to happen came true. Washington, Michael Penix was a dog because he threw to his stud wide receivers, Rome Odunze, Jalen McMillan, Jalen Polk. These dudes balled out, all looking like high NFL picks, like I said. And in the Bama-Michigan game, someone on this podcast, some consider him midget size, they that person may have questioned me when I said the Rose Bowl was going to overtime. Guess what, Derek? It went to overtime. An awesome back and forth yet ugly game. The game script I predicted. It was a great week for my predictions, and you know me, the Michigan man, very happy with the outcome of the Rose Bowl. Very happy. And I'm a Michael Penix Jr. lover. Nobody's been on that bandwagon more than me this year. Derek, what a fantastic weekend. Washington, Michigan will meet in the Natty. But we got to discuss each of these games first, Derek. What was your takeaway from the Rose Bowl, the game that you could not have envisioned going to overtime?
The one take, Alabama definitely deserved to be in there. I don't think you can put a Florida State team, or a Georgia team in the college football playoff and have a better game. I'm sorry, the game goes into overtime. I'm not sure what else you kind of want in that scenario. So all the haters, they're saying, "Oh, well, Alabama should have been in, Texas shouldn't have been in." You can't tell me that the other teams, if they were in, that it would have been a better game. You have an overtime game and you have a last play heave basically for Texas that gets deflected. So that to me is the biggest takeaway. But when you talk about the Rose Bowl, Jalen Milroe, to me that's the biggest takeaway. Jalen Milroe played meh, and I think you just got to learn that this is not the same Alabama team of old. This is a great coaching job again by Nick Saban. He didn't have the athletes, and everybody's going to say, "Well, guess what? He always gets 4 stars. He always gets 5 stars." It's not all about that. Some guys are 4 or 5 stars, and no matter what situation they're in, are going to be busts. That's just the nature of sports, just in general. You're highly recruited, and you fall off a cliff. But I think overall, you look at both games. I think there's no huge takeaways. That's like really knee jerking at all, because I feel like both these games we knew were going to be close. It was kind of a flip of the coin either way, and I think it kind of turned out that way. My only concern, I guess, for the Rose Bowl in particular would be Jalen Milroe. I think he needs to get his act together for next season. And also, real quick, the center in that game was absolutely atrocious. He actually entered the portal today, so that's pretty funny to see a guy who could not snap the football for his life enter the portal.
That's actually what I wanted to touch on. The center for Alabama cost them the game. Anytime Alabama had momentum, I mean, that one drive, he had back-to-back snaps. The last play of the game, Jalen Milroe had a swing pass option drawn up by Tommy Reese, and he had Jace McClellan with a 2-on-2 with two blockers in front, blocking two DBs. Jace McClellan would have scored on that play. Bad snap. He had no chance to pass. He had to go into the run. Now, he could have attempted to cut back to the left and might have scored because there was a gap there, but that's all it started on the center. As soon as everything's thrown off timing wise, Jalen Milroe forced to make a really fast decision. The snap is low again. It's unfathomable as an Alabama's fan base has been clamoring all year. Their center can't snap the ball. It's just ridiculous that 14 games into the season, that is still showing up. I don't even place most of the blame on Jalen Milroe. Yeah, we know he's not a strong passer. We know he's a run first quarterback, and the stats from this game prove it. But Derek, the center job, and the one thing you're right, this isn't the same old Alabama team at quarterback. They also don't have nearly the weapons they've used to have. Jace McMillan's a running back who's going to the pros. Their wide receiver court is probably the worst of the four teams who are playing in this playoff, and I don't think it's even close.
That's fair. But I don't think you can blame all of the snaps on the center. Yes, were some of them low. Yes, were some of them off target. If it's not a great snap and it's a little bit low, let's be honest. Some of those snaps, Jalen Milroe, excuse me, should have caught and it should have been fine. I think at the end of the day, I've said it time and time again. I don't think that Tommy Reese is an elite offensive coordinator. I think when it comes down to clutch time, which in this game I don't think the play calling for Alabama was very good at the end of the game. You had 3 plays, and your 3rd play is a quarterback sneak? That
But
is terrible.
but it
That's
wasn't.
terrible.
It wasn't a quarterback sneak. It was an RPO where he had an open receiver, but because the snap was low, it was completely botched. And if Jalen Milroe cut back to the left, he scores. I don't blame the play call. The play call was there. The players just flat out failed to execute this play call. I know you hate Tommy Reese. You have this anti-Tommy Reese agenda, but I'm not placing the blame on Tommy Reese. I think Tommy Reese has done a fantastic job given what he's working with this season.
Like, if you look at the pieces and you saw the center, you saw the offensive line for Alabama not be great. Their wide receivers were okay. Their running back I think, was exceptional, given the fact of just everything going on. I think you adapt your play calling to that moment. I don't think that's the right call. Yes, you said, if you went the right way, it would have been a touchdown, but the offensive line for Alabama wasn't that great. I mean, you look at yards, they had 172 yards rushing on 43 attempts. I mean, that's nothing to be woosome about, to be honest with you. I know Michigan's a great front seven, but I'm not so sure you can really say that that was the right play call. I think to me, it's not just about that play call, though. I think during the game, like, the offensive line wasn't there. And to me, if you're Tommy Reese and the offensive line is not producing, they had 5 sacks in the first half, Michigan did. You have to adjust. Like, put a tight end. You got to help the blockers.
He's gonna
To me,
adjust.
that's
Bama dominated the second half. They got back into the game.
dominated the second half. But in the first half, you have a couple sacks.
He made
Let's say you have 3
adjustments.
sacks. No, you have 3 sacks, 3 or 4 sacks. You have to put in more protection. You can't have 5 sacks in the first quarter, first half. That's not good for an offensive coordinator.
He made the adjustments at halftime. That's what halftime's for. They came out and they
Do them
played like
in game. Don't do them at halftime. Do them in game. There's
dude,
in
doing
game
that.
adjustments, and he didn't do them.
It's so much easier to make adjustments at halftime. You have more time to
Well,
think
yeah,
about
of course, but I think you need to have in game adjustments, and I'm not so sure that he really adjusted in game. It
it.
was more the halftime.
He made in game and made changed the game plan, focused solely on Jalen Milroe's athleticism, and it started to work. That last play, Jalen Milroe had 3 options with the football. Guess what? He couldn't take those options because the snap was low and it botched the entire play.
Well, if he
Four,
caught the ball perfectly, there would have been no
snap
excuses.
the ball better. You're a college center at
Well, no,
Alabama.
I know that, but he's the college quarterback at Alabama. Catch the goddamn ball. If it touches your hands, it's catchable. That's
Eric,
the rule.
that's
If it
not
touches
that's
your hands, it's catchable. Is
Eric,
that
it's
not
almost
the rule?
Seth McLaughlin's got to snap those balls better. That was part of the reason Alabama lost the game. But we can keep talking about Bama, but we're gonna switch to the other side. I'm a Michigan man. And before I'm just gonna mention this one more time. Yes, Michigan State is my favorite team. Yes, Michigan State is my favorite team because I have family connections there. I also have family connections at Michigan. I like Michigan State more than Michigan, but I feel like I just to clarify this because I'm getting attacked for this week. But I also have family connections at Michigan. So when Michigan's not playing Michigan State, I know this sounds wrong. I root for Michigan in every other game. Love Jim Harbaugh. And guess what? Jim Harbaugh coached his ass off this weekend. He coached his ass off this weekend. His offensive coordinator, Sharon Moore, defensive coordinator, Jesse Minter, those are both college head coaches right there. Now, their special teams, which is led by Harbaugh's son, was an abject disaster. And that punt, you know how football's a game of inches? If Michigan's punt returner dropped the ball 1 yard behind, would have been a safety. We'd be having an entirely different story about Jim Harbaugh today. We'd be talking about how he fails to get it done yet again. But Derek, not only did Jim Harbaugh win, he beat Nick Saban. That is the best thing that could have happened to the legacy of Jim Harbaugh. And look, JJ McCarthy obviously didn't have a great game, but guess what? He's kind of stunk in the first half. The best play of him in the first half was the Donovan Edwards trick play pass back to McCarthy, where he made an insane grab over his shoulder and threw the ball down the field in a trick play. The second half, when they needed JJ McCarthy the most, he delivered, led them right down the field at the end of the game on a touchdown drive. And the credit for the Michigan success to me is all Blake Corum. Blake Corum is a superstar dog. Could have won the Heisman last year. Didn't. Got hurt. Missed the Ohio State game, Big Ten championship playoff. They lose to TCU. Comes back this year. What's the difference in this year's game? They have Blake Corum. They had the best running back on the field. And Blake Corum donates turkeys and toys to the city of Ann Arbor, the state of Michigan, an absolute great duo, a Michigan man and Derek. When they needed a touchdown the most, he gave a legendary touchdown at the Rose Bowl to beat Alabama that will be remembered forever. And before I turn the floor over to you, Jim Harbaugh versus Nick Saban with Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit in the call January 1st at the Rose Bowl. That is the most college football game ever. The setting was immaculate. The sun was out. It gets dark late in the game as Michigan leads a comeback. Ugly football. Just everything about this Rose Bowl was absolutely perfect.
That's fair. But you mentioned ugly football. I don't think that makes it perfect, but that's beside the point.
Ugly.
That's beside the point. That's immaterial. When you look at this Texas Washington game, it was a good game.
Oh, whoa,
I
you have
think.
no comments on Michigan? You're
Well, no,
skipping
no.
Michigan.
I mean, Michigan was good, but I didn't like either team.
I gave him all the props in the world. He deserved it. Nick Saban also many of it. He did a better coaching job this year than he did on many of his national championship winning team. And for Georgia to lose to Alabama this year, that's tough because this is one of the worst Alabama teams Nick Saban's had in a long time. But Nick Saban to win the SEC championship game, dude, look, that South Florida game was insane. They almost lost to South Florida after Jalen Milroe comes
Lost to
back here.
Auburn.
They were dogs. And hey, the first half, Michigan dominated the game, and somehow it was 13-10. Second half, Alabama dominated the game to force overtime. And Alabama had chances. That fumble late in the game, Alabama was in control, up 7, driving to go up even more. Fumble late in the game completely changed the course of the football game. And now Michigan's going to be playing their future Big Ten rival, the Washington Huskies, in the national championship game.
Yeah, but let's first talk about this Sugar Bowl. I think if you look at this Sugar Bowl, my two names that I mentioned, kind of the guys to look out for, CJ Baxter and Dylan Johnson. Dylan Johnson, the run games for both teams, I feel like weren't as good, like stats wise, as on the field, production wise. Like Dylan Johnson, 21 carries, 49 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's not that great, if I'm being completely honest with you. But it seemed like he made it much bigger of an impact. Just because of you talk about the 2 touchdowns, goal line situation, they punched it in with Johnson. It's unfortunate to see Johnson get hurt at the end of the game. Not something you want to see, but it looks like he'll give it a go for the national championship. But if you're Texas, I tell you what, man. I mean, you ran the ball 9 times with CJ Baxter. I think you got to run the football a little bit more. You can't have Quinn Ewers throwing the ball 43 times in that game. Yes, at the end of the game, you have to throw the football. When you look at this, Ewers percentage. That's the biggest thing. That's the question mark. After this game, you look at completion percentage. That's the difference in this game. 24 for 43 for Quinn Ewers. Michael Penix, 29, excuse me, for 38. That's the biggest difference. Has better receivers in Texas. That's not discrediting Texas at all. Texas has great receivers. It's just Washington, I think both of their receivers could arguably be better than both of Texas's receivers. So, I mean, at the end of the day, Michael Penix had one hell of a game. I mean, this guy, I'm telling you, I mean, this guy is, people are talking, he should have won the Heisman over Jaden Daniels. I'm not saying that far, but I think it should have been a lot closer than it was for the Heisman Trophy candidate. Michael Penix he's that guy. In terms of just pocket presence, like I told you last week, he's Tua Tagovailoa, and it shows. I think that's just a huge thing for him. We'll see what happens in the pros because he's gonna be 24 years old, probably 25 when he starts. We shall see. He's got to be in the right system. He's got to have the right wide receivers to be successful. But this is a guy to watch out for in the national championship and the NFL. I think this guy is gonna be a guy who, depending on the situations, he's gonna either be a bust or he's gonna be a top 5, top 10 player, depending on the situation. Because if he has a bad offensive line and he has a bad receiver core, we don't know what's gonna happen.
All right, we're going to talk about the bust
Thing.
He just had the game of his life, and Derek's bringing up bust, of course. He's just absolute hater. All right, interesting analysis. Derek told you before the week that the running backs were the key. I told you the wide receivers are key. Why? I told you Texas's secondary was awful. It was the biggest Achilles heel of their team, and guess what? Michael Penix Jr. was throwing dots all over the field. Sure, it absolutely helps when you have Jalen Polk and Roma Dunze, who are both likely first-round picks at this stage, and Jalen McMillan, who's a mid-round pick. It helps when you have that kind of talent around you. They didn't even need to rely on Dylan Johnson because Michael Penix was throwing darts, torching that secondary. Every time he got the ball, he was a threat to score. I think he ended 430 passing yards, which is the second most all time in the college football playoff. Joe Burrow 473 against or 493 against Oklahoma a couple years ago, and that awful route in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl 2019 was the most. But Michael Penix, I told you, I've been consistent all year. He should have been the Heisman Trophy winner. Michael Penix
Mm.
Jr. I don't the disrespect Las Vegas has for Washington is absurd. In
Well, no, I
40
agree, but I can't say that he's better than. If you think he's better than Jaden Daniels, then you would say that Michael Penix should get drafted over Jaden Daniels.
that's not the same thing. If you say someone is better in college, it has nothing to do with the pro. It has absolutely nothing to do with the pros. If Michael Penix Jr. had a better season than Jaden Daniels, that doesn't mean Jaden Daniels isn't a better pro prospect. Those are two completely different things. That's why when Johnny Manziel won the Heisman, he wasn't the first quarterback taken. It's just that's not how this works. You probably think Johnny Manziel shouldn't have been taken.
No,
But
no, he shouldn't have been taken. Period.
back to Washington,
He
Derek.
had bust all over it.
That's pause. Michael Penix Jr. Three of their last four games, his squad, the Washington Huskies, have been underdogs. Insanely disrespectful. They have won 21 consecutive football games. That is the nation's longest winning streak. Kalen DeBoer, the most underappreciated coach. Guess what? They've won 10 games. Their last 10 games and games decided by a touchdown. One score games. This team knows how to get it done. Crazy circumstance at the end of the game. Washington completely dominated this game. This score makes this game look way different than it really was. Washington dominates this game. 47 seconds left. Dylan Johnson hurts his knee. The clock would have ran to about 17 seconds, but the clock stopped because he hurt his knee. Texas had no timeouts. That gave Texas 30 seconds left. Quinn Ewers, for the first time all night, worked some magic down the field. But in 4 straight plays, Washington's defense, which is not great, it's a fine unit, not great, nothing spectacular, had an injured corner. Guess what? Didn't matter. 4 straight stops of that Texas offense, which is highly prolific. Washington has winning DNA. Stop doubting this Washington Huskies teams. 21 straight wins. Michael Penix is going to be a great pro. I'm convinced of that now, watching him throw darts like that. And people have to stop questioning his mobility. Michael Penix Jr. is mobile. And can multiple times in that game, his legs continue drives for Washington. Michael Penix Jr. has more than enough ability to get away from guys. We saw he's elusive. He's just an old man who knows exactly what the defenders are going to do, and he's slippery. He gets right away from them, Derek. Everything about his game was flawless.
Yeah, I think the two things, when you talk about Texas, where you would say that they lost this game, Worthy and Mitchell. They had okay games.
They didn't have.
Nothing.
They were bad. They had six
Okay,
combined catches for
six combined catches for 100 yards, which
not,
100 yard,
not
which hold up, that's not bad. That's just not what you expect from these guys. Because if you're talking about a receiver in the mid to late rounds, you would say that's a fine performance. It's a
they
bad performance. It's a bad performance given their status, but I don't think you can say that it's a bad performance in general. It's a bad performance based because they're high level guys.
they combined 6 catches for 73 yards. That's bad. That's an awful performance. Those are two guys you need to step up.
77 yards.
Oh, not 70. Can you do math?
45 plus
You're right.
32.
All right. I read that wrong. 77 yards. Whatever. That doesn't make a difference. That's an awful performance. They needed more, and half of that's on Quinn Ewers and Steve Sarkisian for not looking their way. But Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell, you have to show up. When these games, look at the other side. The guys who are first-round talents, they showed up. These two are borderline first-round talents, early second-round talents. They didn't show up. They weren't there. They weren't looking for the ball, and Steve Sarkisian's squad wasn't giving them the ball. And to your earlier point that Quinn Ewers can't throw 43 times, he kind of had no choice because Washington was ahead of Texas the entire game.
And I agree.
Had to continue to throw. But the fact that he threw 43 times and only had 6 completions to two outstanding wide receivers is highly, highly concerning for Texas. And it's an indictment on Steve Sarkisian for not getting those guys the balls. But you're right. Quinn Ewers looked a little rattled at times. He did not look anywhere near the talent level of Michael Penix Jr. He looked a little a little shaky. He in the second half he played a little better when the pressure was off a little. But that last drive there, Quinn Ewers made a disgusting throw to Jordan Whittington, and then you get to the 10, and the first play is a running back pass that goes -1 yards, and then he throws three balls out of bounds that weren't even catchable. I mean, it was an insane sequence. They were basically gifted a chance to win this game, and they didn't even give any of their players a chance to catch the football.
Yeah, one other thing, Texas 2 fumbles, Washington 1, but I mean, you're right on target with the rest. But one fact before we move on to talk about the national championship game, an often a head coach has never been the offensive, never gone to the national championship being the offensive play caller. It's just not been successful for guys, and it's no different with Sark just not getting over that hump.
I think Kalen Borg. Oh no, he does not. You're right, Ryan Glove does. Interesting. Yeah. That's the complete opposite of the NFL, right? Where defensive coordinators in the NFL generally do not have success. It's all about the innovative offensive play callers. But in the college football, the best head coaches are those generals who just run their entire squad. Don't worry about calling the plays. Ryan Day, you better watch out, buddy. You got guys like Jim Harbaugh. I mean, look, who have the best coordinators in the country this year? Sharon Moore and Ryan Grubb on offense. It's not really debatable. Those two have been the two offensive geniuses around the country. It's no question, no coincidence. Their squads are combined 28-0. And you look on defense, Jesse Minter's been a stud for Michigan. They have the best defense in the country, littered with NFL talent because they know how to develop them. So yeah, but Derek, Monday night, Washington versus Michigan, my dream national title game. 7:30 on ESPN in Houston, Texas. Not really a home crowd for either of these two teams. Two teams who both have to travel down south to the Lone Star State. Let's see. The spread for this game, Michigan -4.5. So another Washington underdog status. This is the first game. I agree that Washington should be the underdog. Michigan did not look great on offense. Washington certainly did in their playoff game, but Michigan's got that defense and they have talent. Who wins the national championship game? Does Jim Harbaugh get a national title, or does Kalen DeVore rack up another trophy in the Washington case?
And the biggest factor is Dylan Johnson. Is he healthy? Is he not healthy? Is he 100%? Is he 90? Is he 80? Is he 60? Is he 50? That's the difference. If Dylan Johnson is 100% healthy, Washington wins this football game 28-21. If he's not 100% healthy, Michigan wins the football game. I think it's pretty simple. I think it depends on Dylan Johnson. If Dylan Johnson isn't healthy, you could see Michigan winning probably 28-24, 28-21, something like that. But if Washington somehow they do not have Dylan Johnson, you could I don't think it's going to happen at all. But you could see this game being a blowout if you see Michigan's defense being as good if not better than they were against Alabama. It would probably have to be better again than they were against Alabama, and Washington can't run the football. You can see this game get out of hand. I think it's going to be close. I think Dylan Johnson is probably going to be about 90, 85 to 90%. So instead of the 28-21, I have Washington winning this game 28-27.
All right, interesting. Washington dominated Texas secondary. Guess what? Washington secondary or Michigan secondary does not look anything like that. Mike Sanderson and Will Johnson, two corners, absolute stud. Will Johnson might be the best corner in the country right now, the way he's playing. That pass rush was getting after Alabama. And look, JJ McCarthy did not have his greatest game, but he stepped up when it mattered most in the fourth quarter, and he does that every single time. Every single time, if there's a game on the line, it's because JJ McCarthy delivers for the Michigan team. Alabama's defense is dominant. Washington's defense is not dominant. They still put 27 up despite struggling. You look at Washington's defense, it's nowhere near as loaded talent wise. I mean, Alabama has Dallas Turner, Kool Aid McKinstry, Terrion Arnold, all potential first round picks, two of them in the secondary. They still had a game winning drive against them. And this comes down a game in the trenches. The game in the trenches was Michigan versus Alabama. In college football, the more physical team seems to win all the time. Washington has an awesome offensive line this year. Don't get me wrong. They have an awesome offensive line, but Michigan has a good defensive line. On the other end, Michigan's offensive line is a lot better than Washington's defensive line. I think this is a Blake Corum masterpiece type of performance. I think you see Blake Corum get the ball 22 or 23 times, 150 yards, two touchdowns. I think Michigan's secondary shuts down that high octane passing attack. I think Michigan wins the national championship game. Same score as they won the Rose Bowl, 27-20.
So they win in regulation.
They'll win in regulation this time, yeah. Overtime was last game. I think Michigan. I think the spread is pretty good, 4.5 Michigan. I think you should watch out for a mix-up of Donovan Edwards throwing the ball again. They seem to, in every big game, have a trick play up their sleeve with Donovan Edwards throwing one a little deep. And Michigan has an underrated receiving core. Roman Wilson, Cornelius Johnson. Guess what? They're seniors. They're seniors. Colston Loveland at tight end. They plucked him out of a little town in Idaho, Derek, our favorite spot. And you know what's going to happen in the national championship game. You know Jim Harbaugh has a week to put in some packages for Orgy. Alex Orgy will come in. You can't. You're just four, bro. You can't
I'm
just not.
smiling.
You can't just not smile. You know Alex Orgy will have some packages this weekend where he'll run the ball. We saw Orgy and JJ McCarthy on the field at the same time last week. That's interesting to watch. I think Michigan just has the scheme and the guys. I think Washington is 21 game win streak ends. It's sad for me to say, but guess what? I'm going to be happy either way because I love both these two teams and these two guys deserve it. But Jim Harbaugh wins the Natty and then runs out of town to LA to coach Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers.
Does Orgy have more? Does he play it? Does he have more snaps in this game? He had 3 against Alabama.
Yeah, I think this is a different kind of game. Michigan knew Alabama's offense wasn't very strong. They know Washington's is, so they'll be more. They would love to run the ball, similar to how they did in Penn State when they knew Penn State's offense kind of stunk. Well, actually, I guess that was a little different. They just didn't want Penn State on the field as much either to give them time. They're just going to wear them down. Washington, they don't want on the field at all. They just do not want them on the field. Sharon Moore saw against Penn State that you can exploit them by just running the ball right down their throats. He's going to do that because he knows he can exploit Washington, and also because he doesn't want them on the field. That was bad, but yes, he wants to run the ball right down their throats. It's prime Blake Corum. Donovan Edwards has been mixed in less and less each week. He's going to be a heavy dose of Donovan Edwards to give Blake Corum a break. It's going to be pound, 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 and watch J.J. McCarthy's legs to make a big run to break the game up.
A lot went down. College football playoff, national championship, crazy. A lot of bowl games happened. We didn't discuss those today, but we'll talk about them later on. Transfer portal, you mentioned one guy briefly, but that's erupting. College football is at its finest right now. Michigan versus Washington. It's certainly going to be a doozy. I think it's going to be a great game. It should be a great game. We'll see what happens with Dylan Johnson, what happens with J.J. McCarthy, what happens with all these guys. Are they declaring for the draft? Are they staying? Certainly interesting. We'll see what Harbaugh does. You had a take that he's going to the Chargers. Who knows who's going to be the Michigan head coach? A lot of speculation around that as well.